Hello and welcome to Beyond the Pour. I'm Nilu, your sommelier host, and we're talking all things hospitality. My guest today is Jessica Waugh. I am so excited to have you here. Hi, welcome, Jessica.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here with you.
And you know what I've loved about this podcast this is episode 10 that we're recording, is people can be anywhere. You know, they could be on the other side. They could be in Africa or Australia or New Zealand. In your case, it's Las Vegas.
Yep.
We just talked about the weather a little bit ago. You're in Las Vegas. I'm in California, Northern California, and we were talking about the weather. But so great to have you on the podcast. So excited to hear about what you do because I think I needed your services many, many times. And so you are the founder and CEO of JWaugh Education.
Correct.
Now, not any old education. This is I'm going to let you introduce yourself, but this is really helping us folk who are trying to get through these difficult wine exams. You're coaching them, you're helping them, you're getting them out of their own way sometimes. And well, I'll let you explain that. Please
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. I like to say I'm a cognitive performance and exam strategy coach. So I help people basically understand the way their brain works. We were or not were taught to study growing up. And a lot of times we just kind of do these one size fits all traditional approaches to approaching education and trying to memorize or understand or retain information. And for a lot of us, that's not easy. It's actually quite difficult. And for many of us, we were not taught how to study. We were not taught how to retain information. We were not taught how to keep everything in our brain. And for those of us going for wine exams, it is an immense amount of information we have to keep in our brain. And so my focus is on neurodiversity as a whole. So I coach neurotypical and neurodivergent students. I definitely thrive with my neurodivergent students because I am neurodivergent as well. But I have amazing neurotypical clients as well that they all have different quirks when it comes to studying and retaining information and what works for them. And so a big part is me really diving into who the person is to figure out what it is that they need to do for their own ways of retaining the information. And then for some clients, it goes even deeper, and we talk about limiting beliefs and we talk about things that are holding themselves up and like the self sabotage that comes, or exam anxiety or test anxiety, or the negative thoughts that come and the ways that we talk to ourselves in a less than kind way. And a lot of that is downfalls for people as well when it comes to these exams, especially at the high level. We can really get in our head and think we have an imposter syndrome or all these other things that come. And you're shaking your head, yes, you totally get
Yeah,
this.
yes. I can relate to everything you just said.
Yeah. And so that's my focus. I come at it from a very different approach than most people do when they talk about wine coaches or exam coaches.
So true. I mean, obviously, when I was taking my exams, and I'm only a certified sommelier, I'm not like you guys, but that in itself was so stressful for me. And not working in the restaurant world, I have to say, makes it even more difficult for the service and this and that. But anxiety.
Yeah.
That was, and I'm a very confident person, but I tell you, I am not joking. The first time I took the certified, my knees were knocking. You
Yeah.
know, you see it on cartoons and this and that, and it was like, what is wrong with me? I couldn't control it.
Yeah.
And I took that exam three times.
Yeah.
On the third one, I said, you know what? I don't care if I pass or not.
Yeah.
And I approved the whole 6 months that I was studying like a maniac, tasting, you know, my whole life went around this kind of thing to get ready for the exam. I wasn't eating spicy food. I wasn't doing this. I wasn't doing that. No alcohol. I was like, just wine, just wine. And I think my mindset changed and I said, it's okay. It's not the end of the world
Yeah.
if you don't pass. And so my anxiety was less when I walked in.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling different when I was answering those questions. And so I mean, I guess my first question, it's incredible what you're doing. My first question is, how do you analyze somebody to figure out what their problem really issues are? How would you figure that out?
So I have relatively intense intake form. So I do group coaching and I do one-on-one coaching. If you're in group coaching, you don't have to go through the intense intake process because it's meant for everyone. Where the one-on-one coaching, I don't coach anyone and everyone. You have to be my ideal client for me to coach you. Which is typically either neurodivergent or neurotypical, but typically high achieving, overachieving, perfectionist kind of mindset is the clientele I work best with. I can help most people, but that's where I strive as a coach. And so I have a quite in-depth intake process, but the first part of the process is actually just taking them through a quiz that I have on my website. Anybody can take it. It's a free quiz. I call it your SOM brain type. I want to know what your brain type is. And so it's probably been thousands of people now that I've worked with, from mentorship to coaching to education. I've been in the industry for longer than I care to admit. Um,
You're too young to say that.
I appreciate you, but it's been almost 20 years that I've been in the industry. And yeah, it's been a while. And through all of the thousands that I've worked with, in my opinion, there's four dominant personality types. And so that SOM brain quiz is so I can understand your personality type. And then if you want to be a one-on-one client, then we go through a pretty in-depth intake process, and I ask an immense amount of questions, and it feels like an interrogation a little bit, so I can truly understand you. And then it's a lot of experimenting as well. And sometimes I get it on the first try, sometimes it takes a couple times, but it's creating this space of safety and this space of no judgment and this space of there is no right or wrong. Everything is an experiment, and allowing that space of just comfort to say, this is what works, this is what doesn't work, this is what's helpful, this is what's not helpful. You told me to do this, but I hated it. I loved this part of what you said. I listened, but I tweaked it this way. Like, that's what I want. Every brain is different. Our brains are as different as our fingerprints. No one brain is the same. And so no one should ever be treated the same as another person because we're so different. And so it's a pretty in-depth process for me to really truly figure out how your brain works. But usually within a session or two, plus the intake forms and quizzes and whatnot, I can usually get a really good grasp of the type of coaching you need.
Incredible. And I was going to say where you were explaining what kind of clients you're looking for, and it seems like most people in the song world sort of have that perfectionistic, I don't want to say anxiety driven, but we all want to be really good at what we do. And maybe we have a little bit of an ego, and maybe we don't want anyone telling us this and that. And but we are curious about learning, right? And that's the best part I think about this whole thing. Um, and you figured out how to tweak it and find out what those issues are. Now, there's so much to talk about. I mean, when I have people on the podcast like yourself that their background is so intense and fun and exciting, I kind of have a hard time breaking it down. So as we're talking, hopefully you'll talk about it more. But you've got 27 certifications. And when you said 20 years, I mean, I don't know in that amount of time you've done so much, obviously. And most of the exams you've passed with distinction and this and that. Um, you know, when you say you had issues yourself, I'm kind of surprised because it seems like you were you were passing these classes with merit all the time, and so you work double hard, I would presume. Um, but I want to go back to a special date in 2018
Yeah.
for you.
Mhm.
Um, was not such a fun year. Um, to kind of think about that for a second, you went ahead, you took the Master Sommelier exam, and something happened. And I'm gonna let you talk about that because I start shaking just thinking about it.
Yeah. So, 2018 was my second time taking the Master Sommelier exam. I missed theory the first time. You have to pass theory first. And so, kind of the backstory is I I didn't, my advanced exam took me twice. I sat for the first time in 2015. I missed tasting. So I sat again in 2016, and I have a very competitive side, more with myself than anyone else. And the advanced exam was the first thing I ever like truly failed in my life. I am the ultra high achiever, push myself into exhaustion, burnout, every possible bad thing I could do to my body. I am that person. So from the outside, I look incredibly successful doing 27 certifications, all these things. But I didn't know balance doing them. And that's a big reason why I coach, is because balance is important. And I didn't know that then. And so when I didn't pass advanced in 2015, I made a goal to myself that I was going to get the high score the next time. And in 2016, I passed the advanced exam and I did get the high score. It's called being the Rudd Scholar. And when you get the Rudd Scholarship, you immediately sit for MS the following year. And I did not know that. They were like, okay, so you ready for a mess? And I was like, no, I'm going to take a year off. I really want to dive in. I want to make sure I truly understand the information. I know I got read, but I feel like my foundation needs work. This is a common thing with me. I think I can always be better, which is good to some degree, and it's toxic to another degree. And that's one of my constant struggles. And so when I took theory in 2017, I did not pass MS theory. In 2018, I retook theory and I did pass. And then you have 6 weeks between theory and practical. So I was like, well, I know I'm tasting is my hard one. I have 3 years to pass all three. So I'm going to really hone in on service, and I'll just do whatever I can with tasting. And so I like service is my strong suit of them all. Most people will tell you theory is my strong suit, but in my opinion, service is my strong suit. I love people and I love working with people. And so I knew I nailed service. And tasting on one of the wines, I called Chenin Blanc twice. And because once I got to wine three, I knew wine three was Chenin Blanc, wine two wasn't, and I needed to get back to change wine two to whatever
Mhm.
I ended up calling it, which I don't remember. And so I'm like hurrying as fast as I can through tasting so I can get back and change from two Chenin Blancs to one Chenin Blanc. And we're sitting in the results chair afterwards. And the master sommelier, Jay James from California, you might know him. I think he's still in California. He was the one who gave me my results. And he goes, well, Jessica, um, why on earth would you go back and change a wine? Like, you don't do that. You don't change wines and tasting. And I was like, well, I called the second wine what the third wine was. So I knew the second one wasn't that. So I had to get back and change it. And he was like, well, if you change a wine from wrong to right and you pass the master sommelier exam, then I guess it's a good thing. And I was like,
And that's what you had done?
did you just say I passed? And he's like, yeah. I was like, I passed the whole thing. And he goes, yeah. And I was like, but I could have done better at tasting. That wasn't my best
You
tasting.
were still bashing yourself after passing.
And he was
Oh
like, stop it right now. You passed. You're done. You're good. And I was like,
no.
oh, but I could have done so much better. I wasn't even trying to pass tasting. And So I had imposter syndrome for a while after passing because I could have done so much better with tasting. And then 6 weeks afterwards, I get a phone call from the board of directors, and she says, "Hey, Jessica, we've had an issue with the tasting exam, and we need to invalidate the exam, and you're going to have to come back and retest." And I hope you're not hearing all of that. Somebody just started
Um,
sawing. I'm so sorry. I don't know
you
why.
know what? I love that. I was thinking my puppies, I have a pug who snores like that. Please leave it. It is fantastic. Because I was like, I thought I put the puppies outside. He's here somewhere. I don't know. Jessica and I are still awake. So, okay. No,
I don't know. Someone is sawing somewhere.
please don't wake him. It can only get better from here. No, no, we're good. So tell us the story.
So,
It says you passed, and you're like 6 weeks later, you get the call.
yes. And
And
so I am on my way out the door to go mentor a tasting group.
yeah,
So I'm like, I'm in shock. I don't know I'm in shock in the moment. I'm like, okay, no problem. I don't want anybody to think I didn't pass fairly. I'll come back and test again. No problem. I have to go. I'm running to a meeting right now. I'm going to go help all of these candidates who are sitting for their advanced exam the next week with tasting. And I get there, like it's all completely out of my brain at that point. I'm working with everybody, and I'm very much a all-in kind of person. And so my brain is fully submersed in helping these people. And what they didn't tell me is they were making it public within an hour. And
the
so
results or the fact that
the
yeah,
invalidation, yep, the invalidation, they were making public within the hour. And
within the hours. Okay.
yeah. And so I'm sitting there working with my students, some who have been students of mine for many years. And my one of my students who's still very dear to my heart, her phone beeped. And she looked at it, and then she just looked at me, and she just started crying. And she's like, "Are you okay?" And like tearing up, not like full crying, but like tearing up. And she's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she was like, "Have you seen the anything?" I was like, "Babe, no, I'm here with you. Like, what's going on?" And she
Yeah.
showed me that it went public. And it went public as a cheating scandal. And of course, that sells more papers, sells more, that gets more clicks than what it truly was, which was a proctor. You can Google who it was, it's pretty out there, but there was a proctor who gave away answers to some of his students.
Yeah.
And he had sent an email out saying PG and CDP,
Hmm.
meaning one of the wines was a Pinot Grigio and one of the
Hmm.
wines was a Chateauneuf de Pop. And because there's some reasoning behind why that was that I'm not really going to go into today, but in my brain I'm like, no one can know how to pass with two wines. Like you have to get five wines correct to pass this.
Sure.
Like why
Sure.
would people only send two? That doesn't make any sense. And then when that came out, I was like, well, I didn't even call the CDP because I can't ever get that wine right. It's my nemesis. CDP is so hard. I was like, you think if I would have known, I would have called at least one of the reds CDP.
You didn't. Yeah.
I did not.
Good.
I think I called it Oregon Pinot. And
It's
did
so
not.
similar at the same time. They are. It's hard to, I mean, you
Yeah,
guys have amazing palettes, but I'm like, that's
yeah.
hard to.
It's a struggle for me. CDP has always been my nemesis
I mean,
because
it's got 13. How many does it have? Like 13 freaking.
yep.
Holy
And some
moly.
producers use all of them, and some don't use like only three of them, and some are on sand, and some of them are on like literally. There's so many different expressions. It's like, how do you? It's my own thing. I don't think it's a testable wine because there's so many different
It
examples.
shouldn't be. It shouldn't
But
be. Yeah.
that's my own opinion, not anybody else's.
Nilu and Jessica think no more of that. No. We're going to take over the whole sommelier.
Yeah. So
God.
I called her back and said, hold on, okay, now I'm in shock. I don't like talk to me more about what's going on. And she was like, well, you need to come back and resit. And tasting is like a marathon. You peak your palate at a very specific
Correct.
time. You have to like build very strategically to have your
Mm-hmm.
palate peaked right when you sit. And so we were supposed to sit again within a couple months. And I was like, whew, okay, we're gonna have to like re-peak my palate. I'm trying to like work through all of this. And I was doing pretty good with tasting. And I was like, okay, I feel good. I get to actually like pass on a tasting that I'm proud of. And was like, this is my second chance. Okay. And I didn't really take much into a negative realm. I was like, okay, now I get to pass on a tasting I'm proud of, rather than a tasting that I just did it to do it. And what I did not prepare for is when you walk into that room, I was no longer showing my skills, I was defending my title. And I didn't know to prepare myself for that. I didn't know to um, I just didn't know what to expect. And so I'm sitting in the room. One of my mentors is across the table from me. Usually you have three or four master sommeliers across the table from you, grading you. And I sat down and like my heart started racing and things weren't feeling normal like they normally feel. And I'm trying to taste and like I'm losing my shit.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm just like
No,
losing
no,
it.
you're good. Yeah.
And I completely crumble in that room. It's like the room completely caved in on me. And I couldn't keep it together. I couldn't keep my grid straight. I couldn't keep anything straight. I've got, I had, in a nutshell, I had a lot of trauma hit me at once.
Sure, sure.
I had a very turbulent childhood, and school was always my safe place. And after like 3 years of therapy after the situation, I learned that it was like school had betrayed me, and that's where all the trauma came from. And I had a lot of compartmentalized trauma come. I went into a depression for 3 years. It was a really, really rough time. Um, Now that I'm out of it, I honestly wouldn't change anything the way it happened because it's made me who I am today. I can coach the way I coach. If I had my title, I would be quite restricted and I wouldn't be able to do what I do.
Yes.
So I think there is a reason for it. And
Yeah.
when we were they reopened the investigation a couple years later after the Me Too movement of the wine world happened in 2020, and the two top people on the board were on the call with me. I'm not going to name names, but they were on the call with me, and they said we reopened the investigation. We now know you had no part in this. However, you're not going to be able to use your title. And I go,
Ridiculous.
I need to understand better. Did you just tell me you now know for sure, which I could have proved? I stay in an Airbnb. I lived with my partner who was also sitting for the Master Sommelier exam. I make him stay in a different Airbnb. I don't stay with him. I don't stay in the hotel. I am solo. I turn my phone off. Like I'm in my own world.
Sorry, was he taking it the same day as you?
Yep. He didn't pass in 2018, but he had to retake everybody had to retake the tasting,
Yeah,
not people who passed.
right.
And so he was retaking it as well.
Yeah.
And we're not together anymore. We're still amazing friends, but we're not together anymore. And so like literally we lived together, but I would make him stay in a different Airbnb. I was like, you can't be near me. I can only be in my own energy. And so I could have proved it, but they told me, they're like, we know you had nothing to do with this. And I go, so you know I'm innocent, but you are still going to like treat me as if I were guilty and not allow me to use what you have now told me I have rightfully earned as my title. And they said yes. And I said, okay, thank you so much. And I publicly renounced myself from the court. I still help people pass the exams because I think the journey to the exam is beautiful. And I think what people can do with their titles is amazing. And I don't have any ill will towards them. I just don't support people I don't have an alignment with.
Yeah. Jessica, when you do pass, you have that title for Master Sommelier, are you not allowed to coach anymore?
So you can mentor in very specific ways.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you can do a little bit. You have a lot of restrictions on what you can do.
Because I remember I was getting help here and there from different people, short amounts of time. Um, but a couple of them were saying, look, I'm taking my master's sommelier exam next month, whatever.
Yeah.
And after that, I can't be helping you at all. So so it was weird for me. Like I didn't understand but you're explaining it, so that makes sense. It just restricts it more, not the way that you are able to right now bring your wealth of information. I mean, I don't know, but the the universe did not want you to be put into that box.
Yeah.
What do you think? You
Oh,
think that's correct?
yeah,
Yeah, I
I
think
agree with
so.
you. It hit me, it was last year or the year before, I can't remember exactly. Time doesn't work in my brain since the pandemic. So it's been within a couple of years. There were two moments that hit me, and I was coaching a client, and we broke through a really big um block that she had, and she ended up passing a portion of the exam, and she ended up doing really well. And um she goes, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but you are not meant to use that title.
There you
Uh,
go.
and I was like, I don't take offense to that. I actually 100% agree with you. It would have limited me in an immense amount of ways that I don't think it's a bad thing by any means to have that title. I think it's still a great thing to achieve. But for me in my personal journey, in my journey of helping others, it wasn't meant for me.
I think, you really are a master sommelier. Now, I think that and your knowledge is all that anybody cares about. Any of us that are trying to learn and get through this crazy process, you know, I think you're exactly where you need to be. This
Like,
is incredible what you can do with your knowledge right now. You don't need that little pin to define you, I think. Um, so incredible and good for you for accepting it. You know what I'm saying? Because you could for the rest of your life be like, I'm gonna take you to court. I'm gonna, be bitter about stuff, and so many people seem to be that way. But I think you've
yeah,
taken your well earned studies, information, your hard work. And I said to you the other day, I mean, I teach small little 2-hour wine classes, but for me too, on a very, very, very small level, you know, I wanted to learn all that so I could break it down
yeah,
and help other people.
yeah.
And so that's what I'm trying to do. You're doing it on such a large level, and you're helping Master of Wines pass their exams, right? So
Yeah.
it's no joke to be able to help that level. I mean, I think it's fantastic. I'm sure it's an emotional thing to talk about, but at the same time, good for you for everything you did with that. Very impressive to get to that point. So no joke on my end. Because I know my nerves just could not take it. Um,
Yeah.
so what can I ask you, just backtracking a bit? This was a big question I had for you with the 2018, but
Yeah.
what is neuroscience? What are neuroscience-backed strategies?
Mm.
Are you kind of people that have a problem? I think all of us do to a certain extent, but compartmentalizing thoughts, emotional, regulation. Is that how you're focusing on that part?
So it
How you?
depends. It's very client dependent. So there are some clients that I'm reprogramming neural pathways with them and helping them through thought patterns and things along those lines. So one of my certifications I did with a psychiatrist, and it's all about brain health and understanding every aspect of your brain. We went through, I don't even know, hundreds of brain scans and understanding how the brain truly works. And so it's different for every person because everyone's brain is different. But neuroscience backed strategies basically just means that we are going to do things in the most optimal way for your brain, not for everyone's brain, for your brain. And so sometimes that comes into play with traditional methods. Sometimes that's using more outlandish methods like Some people really like something called a memory palace, which is if you've ever, I think it's called Moonwalking with Einstein. It's a great book that
Mhm.
walks you through what a memory palace is. For me personally, memory palaces don't work at all. But everybody is different. And so it's finding the things that work for you. For instance, I'll give you two examples. One of my clients is a wine uh uh
Winery owner,
not
winemaker,
where you go and wine
shop, wine bar,
bar.
wine bar owner.
Wine bar owner. I was like, what the heck is that word?
We
Wine
go
bar.
there a lot, but we don't know what it's called. No, I'm joking.
Yeah. And she, when you're an owner of a wine bar, you're working a ton. And when you're a small business owner, you're working a ton. And so we have her every week, she has a different wine that she features. And so part of her studying process is she doesn't do so well studying alone. She does better when people are involved and interacting and when she can talk about it and like actually submerge herself in it. So
Yes.
every week she has the task of writing flashcards about the region, the grape, the way that wine is made, all the things. And then she either laminates them or puts them in plastic baggies and puts them on the tables. And every time she comes to a table, the customer asks her a question. And so she gets fully
That.
immersed in the situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and like another person, for instance, is really into cars. And so when we break down regions, he breaks it down as if it's a car. And so he assigns all these different aspects of places to a car. And it helps his brain understand things because he's attaching it to things that he really, really solidly knows.
Yeah.
And so it's nothing what I teach sounds normal. Whoever would say go have your patrons help you study? Who would say go attach Burgundy's Grand Cru's to a car?
Yeah.
But I have to find what works for each person, and so everyone is different. But it's understanding the way their brain works, and then giving them strategic ideas and experiments to play with. And some of it's as simple as using like the Pomodoro method, which is you have a certain amount of time of focus and then a certain amount of time of scheduled break. And the traditional way is 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off. And I have a timer here for it. So you have these different kinds of timers.
Yeah.
Um, and so you make it really, really strategic and your brain only goes for 25-minute focus. Some of my clients need 15 minutes of focus, 3 minutes of break time. I'm the polar opposite. I hyper focus to a toxic degree sometimes. I need 90 minutes of focus and 30 minutes of break time. And so everybody's different. There is no one size fits all approach when it comes to me.
And Jessica, this is this kind of thing that you learned from looking at these brain scans in that uh,
Mm,
or
yes,
or your own questions or a little bit of both. A little bit of
yes, and
both kind of thing.
yeah, it's a lot of other things. One,
Yeah.
um, I've done an immense amount of learning myself. So it's me coming up with my own methods that finally I was like, I don't work the way other people work. I'm going to do it my own way. And anybody who was around me when I was studying thought it was utter chaos, but it's the way it works for my brain.
I
And
love it. I love it. It's
I've
so cool.
I've got the TV on in the background. I've got other stuff going on here. I've got two
Yeah.
screens going. I'm doing a presentation and I'm doing this and I'm doing multiple things at once. And it's all the things people say don't do, but that's
Yeah.
what works for my brain. So that's what I
Yeah.
do. And so it's weeding out the like shoulds and shouldn'ts
Mm.
and what truly works for you.
I love that. And that's you're helping so many people. If you were gonna redesign, this is just that doesn't have to be a long answer. One thing about the WSET program and one thing out of the court exam structure, what would you change? If you had to pick one thing right now that you're is bugging the hell out of you, you're like, no more kind of thing.
So with the court specifically, it is not neurodiverse aware. in the way that they do their exams. The auditory portion of the Master Sommelier exam is very difficult for some people. Some people need to actually have the question in front of them to see the words. Some people can't process well auditorily. That was a massive struggle for me. I am not auditory at all. And so I practiced doing mock exams over and over and over and over again to get the auditory skill built. It was very challenging for me. So having some kind of, and the easiest way most people understand this is in the school system, when you're neurodivergent, you get a 504 plan. And this 504 plan gives you more leeway to be able to, study in a certain area or sit in a certain place or whatever the case it is that you need. Um, for the CMS, I think that they need to have some realm of a 504 plan, and be willing to help accommodate people who need accommodations.
Got it.
As far as the WSET goes, I mean, you sent me the questions earlier. You think I'd have an answer for this, but I actually really love the way the WSET does their programs. They offer in person, they offer online. They do have accommodations if you need accommodations. They give you a book, so you only have to know what's in that book until you get to, actually, no, diploma, you still get a book. So like you have so much more guidance with WSET, and it's not that I'm bashing the CMS when I say this, but the WSET is very organized and it's very set in a way that here's what you need, here's how the exam works, this is what you need to do, now go pass. And where the CMS, yeah, they have some like outlines and things. They have
You're
a
on
like
your own. Yeah.
recommendation, but there's no book, there's no anything. You have to figure out how to learn and you hope you figure it out. And most of the time, you don't figure it out until you've sat for the exam. And you're like, whoa, I didn't know to study any of those things. And so you start studying those things, or you get a study group that helps you, or you find a mentor who helps you. But it's so solo and so unaccommodating on the CMS side that that's where their area of opportunity is. Where the WSCT, I mean, even if you want your exam back to see what you got wrong, you can request that.
Yeah.
There's so much transparency there, and there's so much structure and guidance there.
Yeah.
I can't think of something on the WSET
Got
side.
it. Got it. Well, yeah, I mean, that's, I could talk for an hour about that.
Yeah.
Um, and on a separate phone call, I will talk to you about that. But I understand what you're saying. I just will add this one sentence.
Yeah.
The WSET for me was very dryly written.
Oh,
Like you'll probably
uh,
figure out my brain set in 2 seconds because I was falling asleep reading a chapter of that.
okay. I do have one now that you've said that. So, it is written in England English, a
Right?
traditional English. And so the biggest thing that I have to, so I'm a WSET educator as well.
Yeah.
Um, the biggest thing I have to coach, especially my level 3 and diploma candidates for, is that when they say brief, it doesn't mean brief like we mean in America. When we in America say brief, it's like a few words, maybe a sentence. For them, they still want a full paragraph. And so it's using words that make sense for both countries. It's all English, but it's not totally it doesn't translate
Yeah.
100%. And so
Yeah.
it's making sure that they use wording that resonates on all levels.
Yeah, here's the weird thing. I grew up in England and I came here when I was like 24. So you think I'd understand all the British lingo and ways of asking those questions. And I passed the level 3 I passed the tasting the first time. Then I go and I also passed the theory, right? The part that I could not get down was those little brief, I call them short essays, but they're not. They're like less than a paragraph thing.
Yeah.
What? I could not, and I thought I wrote it correctly, and it would come back and say, no, you didn't answer and I'm like, what? And I was kind of studying both at the same time.
Yeah.
So WSET 3, WSET Level three to me is like a certified level two psalm in my head. And the tasting is completely different, and I might be wrong, but the tasting to me was the court was so much more difficult.
Yes. Yeah.
So, so that anyway, that was my story. And so I don't have that little pin. I've got one and two, but I don't have three because I couldn't figure out the little essay thing.
Yeah,
Maybe,
that's when I'm teaching it, that is what
yeah,
I focus on the hardest is, and I create practice essays for people to work on and to answer and to go through, and I'll walk them through, okay, this is why you only got these many points, and this is why you need to say all these things as well. And
yeah,
it's you really have to do the who, what, when, where, why, how every single time you answer a question for WSET, which I think is beautiful. And I love the analytical side of it. But I think the support to get people there could use a little strengthening.
sure. Well, I might come back to you on to get that level three one day. So that would be fun. My last question for you, Mademoiselle. I know you have a lot to do and you're busy, busy. Um, I always ask a music question. I don't know if people like it or not, but I just find it cool to get to know a little bit about each person. This whole adventure that you've been on the last 20 years, I'm gonna say, yeah, that's a big chunk of your life. What song would describe your journey in the crazy wine world industry?
I am not the most musical person. And so I was trying to think of a song title for this, and like my brain goes in like many different directions. And like it went from like oops, I did it again, from like Britney Spears. Because I keep
Oh
taking
my God, I'm gonna be laughing about this after I have a glass of wine after this.
it went to like Nirvana with like what is it, heart-shaped box, like I go so many places, like I was like, oh, I could go here, I could go there, I could go
Yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah.
And so
There's a
like
lot of fun stuff. Yeah.
there's so many, but I think I landed on oops, I did it again just because the funny
It's
factor.
perfect. It's perfect. I mean, I'm gonna write this down. This is fantastic. Can't get any better than this. Oh my God, Jessica, thank you so much for talking to us. I hope that everybody that listens to this is gonna learn a ton. And also, if they're thinking about studying for wine, they know where to go now. Start off with Nilu for a 2-hour class, and then I'm gonna send you over to Jessica for full on go up to Master Sommelier and, and Master of Wine. Um, Thank you again for joining us on Beyond the Pour. And to all our listeners, please do subscribe, please like, please follow. We're trying to grow our little channel Beyond the Pour. Thank you, Jessica. Appreciate it again.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate you.